Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Pink Sheep and Friends Friday. My name is Evelyn of Pink Sheep Design, and it's time for another episode of Pink Sheep and Friends. This is actually episode 51, and we are going to be talking to women walking on a wire today. I am super, super excited. Let me grab, I was trying to think, I don't have any. I usually have my announcements right now. But yes, we're going to be chatting with Christine of Women Walking on a Wire. And let's see. I do have a pattern releasing next week, so be on the lookout for the low tide tee. I probably should have worn that one today. That would have made more sense. But I did just finish this one. This is my Pomona tee made using Premier Cotton Fair Bulky, which is absolutely wonderful. So you guys can check out the Pomona tee if you like that and check out that yarn. Yeah, I don't think I have any other big announcements right now except for DIY Hook Challenge. If you guys haven't signed up for the DIY Hook Challenge, be sure to do so. You have until the end of this month to purchase your hook so that you can have time to decorate it for the month of June. What? He's yelling at me from the living room. I don't know what he said. But yes, you guys have until the end of May to purchase your hook, and then you will have all of June to decorate the hook, and then we'll be announcing our winners in July. So super excited about that. We have, I guess, the rest of the half of the month. What's today? I don't even know what today is. But you still have time. So be sure to check the link in my bio if you guys want to join in on the DIY Hook Challenge this year. I think we have over 60-something people now that have joined in, so keeping it going. Let's see. I thought I had a question, but I think that was from my stories. Yeah. Okay. So let's get Christine on here. There we should be good. Everything should be clear. Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
Let me turn my volume up.
Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yay! I know. Usually I won't have my media volume turned up, and then or my in-call volume or whatever it is, and I'll have to turn it up. I like that hoodie you're wearing.
You like this?
I do. Oh, it's lovely.
It is lovely, and it held up really well. I've had it over a year.
I was going to ask how long you'd had it.
Yeah, this one's held up so well, and I wear it a lot. So
that's awesome. It's kind of hit or miss because all of my stuff has to be printed with that direct to garment because I just have too many colors in my design, so I can't do the screen printing. And it's kind of hit or miss. It's you know, they don't always have the best. I mean, any of the printing companies, it can be hit or miss with the quality of that DTG printing. And so I'm always like, fingers crossed that they did it right and everybody's stuff is going to last.
And you have two different printers, right? Like you have, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So anything
so one of them do you think works better than the other one? Does one really, do you think gives better quality?
No, I really don't think so. I think it's really just hit or miss. I've had a few people who've reached out and said, you know, my garment faded tremendously after the first wash. The good news is if they get me photos, both of the printers are usually willing to be like, yeah, that shouldn't have happened, and they can send out a replacement. But yeah, for a long time Bonfire didn't even offer direct to garment printing, which meant that they were altering the colors in all of my designs in order for them to actually be on the site. So for a time, I let that happen, but now, thankfully, both of the printers are great, and I just have all my colorful designs.
This is anytime somebody asks me, you know, what do you want for Mother's Day, Christmas, your birthday? I want Pink Sheep merch. That's what I want. So
that's so sweet. That makes me so happy. And I will show you. I have one that I haven't released yet, and it's been hiding because, you know, I try to give everything like its own little like party when I release it. And if I don't have time for that, I don't want to release it yet. So I've been sitting on this one. Let me see if it's in here. Oh yeah. I haven't even opened the stickers yet. I haven't put the merchandise together. And I've literally had these stickers packaged up now for probably like 5 or 6 months.
Yeah.
But I'm so excited about it when I do finally release it. So that's the
That's
coffee
so
and
cute.
cake.
Love it.
Yeah, so that one will be another release at some point soon, but I'm super excited about that one. I guess I could probably remove the crochet hook and then it would be for like anybody like knitting and crochet, but you know, I just have that hook and everything. Well, I skipped your intro, so I would love for anyone who's watching and has not met you, is not maybe not following you here on Instagram, if you just do a quick little intro of who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Christine. Woman walking a wire. I make weird granny squares.
That's like an elevator pitch. I mean, that's
yeah, that's pretty much my niche.
yeah. So. And someone just said knitters have enough merchandise already. So
yeah.
Well,
do they? I don't know. It's not something I've looked into. So
yeah. Do you knit at all, or do you only crochet?
So my grandma, she showed me how to knit when I was 10. I probably only know to knit, and I don't know how to purl, and I can go in a straight line and back, and that's about it.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, I think for me, I would have to watch a lot of YouTube videos to pick it back up. It's one of those things, like, I don't think crocheting and knitting is like riding a bike at all. Like, anytime I've had to put it down, I've had to definitely like look things up again. Like, I couldn't remember how to cast on. That was the big thing with knitting, is remembering. I was like, it's some kind of weird thing. I did the one where like you had your fingers and you would like go around your fingers. Yeah.
And I do think it would come back really quickly, but that's probably the only thing I know how to do, is like to cast on and do a single stitch, and it would all look terrible. My cousin, she does, like, you know, where they have circular knitting or whatever, and there's like multiple
oh yeah, like the
needles
needle.
Yeah, well, there'll be multiple needles like on different parts of it or whatever, and that all looks really complicated to me. I think when I first started getting into fiber crafts, I might have tried to knit again, and then I was like, well, let me try a crochet, and it was so much more, it just felt freer, you know, easier just to kind of freeform an idea and build on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always said that about, I don't think I ever would have gotten into designing knitwear. You know, like, I made a few things here and there, but I just felt so much more confident in like using different stitches to create different, you know, and even now, like, all my stuff is so simple because I still don't have the confidence right now to try and like create form-fitting things with lots of increases and decreases in different places, and like, because then it goes into the sizing. Like, if it was just for me, maybe I was just making it for me, but designing wearables.
I made this tunic dress last month, and that, other than like a hexa cardigan, that's the first wearable thing I think I've ever made, and I frogged it out so much, and all I kept thinking was how complicated it would be to make wearable patterns, because like my body's weird, and I was trying to make it like really custom for me, but that would not work for most people. So you have to do a lot of playing around with math, and I can, but with the calculator and
good. Like, boxy designs are good because then you can kind of add like a waist tie instead of like increasing and decreasing for like a waistline, you know. So that's kind of in my go-to, is like boxier styles, and because that's like, I have like no chest, and so trying to design like bralettes for people who have much larger chests was like, I don't know, it's like foreign language. I don't know what they're supposed to fit like, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I did a slipper pattern in December.
Oh, and it's amazing.
So stressful though, because I was like, I've never done anything where sizing was important. So I'm like, with all the testers, I'm like, I need to know everything. Like, tell me all about your feet.
Yes.
Tell me about the feet of the person that you're putting these on. I need to know everything. Do you have wide feet? Do you have long feet? Do you have, you know, what size do you wear? How did they come out? You know, so it was, and that was just for shoes. slippers.
Yes, and so how do you feel? Because I know there are probably some people on here who may want to write some kind of patterns that are, you know, have to have different sizes. So when you were writing your slipper pattern, did you start with one size and kind of guess on different sizes and then get feedback and change that up? Like, what did that look like for you?
Oh, everything I do is chaotic.
I get it.
So I think I probably made them to fit me first.
Yes.
And then I started looking at shoe sizes and like standard shoe sizes, and I made some guesses.
Yeah.
I've never done anything with a gauge watch before either.
Oh, there you are.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
I'd never done anything with a gauged watch either. Like I had never made one for anything I've ever made, and I never used them in any of my patterns either. So that one was like, oh, we really have to, like, you know, if you're not on gauge with this, you're gonna be completely off. So yeah.
Yes, that was actually one of my first larger pattern tests. My very first pattern was a crop top that was not size inclusive. I mean, it was like small, medium, large, extra large. Like I think I had 4 sizes. Because I like jumped in the deep end. Like you go to design your first pattern and it's a crop top. I mean, it was a little, I don't know what I was thinking, but the next big one was the Luna cardigan, which has turned into like a classic one for me that I can like point people to of like, this is a great beginner cardigan. It has now been revamped to be fully size inclusive. But the first round of pattern tests, the testers were like, what's your gauge? I was like, I don't know.
Same. Yeah. They're like, you know what? I'm like, I guess we're going to have to pick something in here that's going to be the gauge swatch, you know? So,
which is kind of difficult with granny squares, right? I mean, the slippers are made up of granny squares, correct?
Granny squares. So, they're made up of a bunch of kind of modified granny squares to be more form-fitting, because I think I years ago had made just a really basic pair of granny square slippers that were like, maybe it had a little bit of curve at the tip or something on that tip square, but everything else was super boxy. And I was like, no, I want something that's like really formed to your feet, you know, and gonna look kind of like a ballet slipper, you know?
And they do, and they are like, I like that they're not clunky feeling at all, you know? I mean, I think that's really nice. But that was where I was at, and I remember too, talking about like a oopsie story with a new designer. I was using a hook that did not have the size on it. You know, like it was one of those where I just kind of assumed what it was. And I told all the testers, I told them all the wrong size. So all of their cardigans were turning out way bigger and looser because I thought I was using like an 18 millimeter and I was using, I think, like a 15.75, you know, like just under a 16.
Whoop.
So that was fun.
Man. Yeah, I always feel bad.
So,
you know, I know the testing process is to weed out errors and to find all those things, but man, I always feel so bad when people have like put a bunch of work in and then I'm like, let's actually just change that whole thing and do something different. Like, sorry for all that work you put in.
Yeah,
my bad.
I think it was my Jenny sweater, which was my second pullover, like a full-on pullover design. And that one, I had so many testers drop because I had to redo that pattern like 3 times. And I didn't get mad at them. I was like, I totally understand. I'm the one who's screwing this up. I'm still trying to learn what I'm doing. And that one still needs to be redone. Like that's one, it's out there, but I think it's only like, you know, small to 3X. And it was not based on Craft Yarn Council, like standard sizing, you know, so it's one of those, like, one of these days I'm going to get around to redoing that one because I do like it, you know.
Yeah, no, I've redone, back in October, I did a revamp of my Granny's Eye, Granny Square, but there's a couple of my very first ones that I'm like, you really got to go back and, you know, now that you know what you're doing, rewrite this and, you know, streamline it a little bit to make it look more like the rest of the patterns, so.
Well, tell me a little bit about your journey when you started crocheting and how that turned into wanting to create a design and actually wanting to put your designs out there.
I learned, well, I tried the first time I ever tried to crochet. I had the yarn, I had a hook, I had some YouTube video, but it's like 2009. There's not a
Yeah.
ton of videos out there, right?
Yeah.
So I'm watching this one. It's like super, super fast speed and whatever. It's not really meant to be like an instructional. It was kind of.
We're still learning how to use YouTube here.
Yeah, seriously. So I'm watching it and I'm trying to do what she's doing, and like I think I spent 6 hours doing what she's doing, going, this is not coming out right. I'm trying to make this kind of a beret style beanie, and it kept coming out this big. Okay. I was successfully making it. I was just making it really like a gnome. So
yeah.
So I bought some books because I'm kind of better with reading and looking at diagrams and stuff. So between those two things, and then like everything I do, I get obsessed about it. And but some things stick and some things don't, and that one definitely stuck. And for years, I would sell, things that I made to people that I knew, kind of always hustling, trying to have some side money coming in. Ever since I was a teenager, I'd have my main job, and then I'd have my side business going or whatever. And so my work was actually the place that I worked. They were my biggest customers, and
That's
Sarah Zimmerman, repeat crafter mean. I made so many of her beanies for children, and for the children of my coworkers. And I had I work in hospitals, so I had this one doctor. He was one of my best customers, and he started asking me for kind of custom stuff, and that was probably the first time I ever just went off on my own. Like, oh, I think I can do that, and it never occurred to me to write anything down that I was doing. I would make appliques for my kids, and like to sew onto their bags that they were going to camp with. All these little custom things for them, and it just never occurred to me that anyone would want anything I was doing, other than the people who were buying from me. So a couple years ago, I had tried to do like a Shopify store, and it was all I was trying to do the drop shipping thing, and it was all like craft supplies, and then COVID hit, and then supply chain things were so unpredictable. And so, I was like, okay, well, we're going to scrap that, because I have no idea, I can't give people guaranteed time frames for when they're going to get their stuff. So, I spent a lot of time looking through Facebook and being on crochet groups and Facebook, and someone asked, do you know of a pattern for a really good cannabis leaf square?
Yeah.
And there was not anything really great out there, because I was like, oh, maybe. So I was searching for it on Google, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm not really finding anything. But I could probably come up with something. And in a couple days I did, and people wanted it, and I was it's like, okay, I'll write it up, and we'll see.
That's awesome.
And that was 2 years ago in 2 weeks. 2 weeks is my 2-year anniversary of opening my Etsy store.
That's amazing.
So,
Congratulations.
Yeah, and I just did 16,000 sales yesterday in 2 years, and that blows my mind. Like every day that many people, are wanting what I put out there. It just blows my mind.
Yes. That's amazing. And so when you first started out, did you start out with, did you bring people on to start testing immediately, or was it kind of like, let me put a few out and then?
I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. The first pattern had no testers. I didn't even know that was a thing. Yeah. But people were interested, and I tested it like a million times. It was like, I'm just going to keep redoing this and looking at it over and over and over again until I feel like, this is it. So I think probably by the third one that I put out, I was like, oh, I guess people are supposed to try this out. So then I finally got some testers, and I've just had some really great interactions with all my customers. I've become friends with a lot of them, and it's been pretty cool. been a pretty cool journey so far.
That's awesome. And you sell on Ravelry as well, or do you? Okay,
I
cool.
do.
And then
not much, but
yeah. I go, like, mine link out to Etsy. So like I'm on Ravelry, but I don't actually do the sales through Ravelry because I just keep it all in one place,
it is easier that way.
But what was I going to ask? Do you have right now? Do you just sell Etsy and Ravelry, or do you have like a website or a blog that's your own right now?
I don't. That's on my list of goals. I do work full time.
Yes.
And so I work like 7 days on and night shift, and then I have 7 days off. And last year I said I had all these goals, and I'm like, I'm going to put out a pattern every month, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I did. But it was like I was going nonstop.
Yeah.
As my dad would say, I was running like my ass was on fire.
Yes. Yes.
As I do.
That's a hustle.
It is a hustle. So this year I really did think a lot about a blog or a website, and I'm just kind of like right at this second I just need to kind of calm down. There's a lot of things going on, and one of my goals was like, oh, you need to like post more on social media because I don't have actually a huge following.
Yeah.
I have good sales, but not a great social following. But mostly now I just promote to my group on Facebook, and they're a great group of people there, very supportive. But yeah, no.
Yeah.
Goals.
I mean, it's a lot. Like website,
it is a lot.
Now, I had a free blog for years, and I did the Crochet Business Summit that's put on by Pam Grice,
yes.
Crochetpreneur.
Mm-hmm.
So the first year that I watched those, it lit a fire for me to swap from my free WordPress blog that I'd had, I mean, for probably 5, 6, 7 years, and actually buy my own domain and pay to do that. And but that was, at least a week or two of like solid, work of figuring it out and like transferring things over and getting the layout right. And I don't even sell stuff on there, like I couldn't imagine like when you're having to try to have all of that in one place and also selling things. So it's a lot. And I think it is just pacing yourself. Like you said, if you work full time, then this is all just like icing on the cake, I mean, so it's, it's not like if you were doing this full time, it's like, well, I have to do this. I have to release patterns. I have to, and I think you can give yourself a little bit of room to breathe. At least I would hope that you have room to breathe. Sometimes.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Not so much. Not so much, but I'm busy. Yeah, I'm busy all the time. I've written actually 4 patterns this year. I put 1 out.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, I just felt like I needed to slow down just a little bit, because I just had too much going on and my thoughts get too chaotic. And, if I'm not like sure on what I'm doing, then I don't want to do it. I have to be solid, whatever I'm doing. So.
Yeah. And I think sometimes too, it's being in the mood to do certain things. And I know for me this year, I've had a lot of ideas this year, but I haven't had as much motivation to actually get everything in order to get them through the process. Like, for instance, I have 2 patterns that are ready to be, like, tested. It's just I've been struggling to sit down and get them into a Google document to actually have them ready for testers.
I have one actually tested already, and I still am like, you know what, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
I'm not ready. This one I want to do a little rewrite, and then I just kind of go down a rabbit hole of something sometimes where I'm like, I have this idea of what I want in my mind, and if I can't get it, just like my alien pattern, my alien head, that was like giving birth. It was 9 months where I'm like, I know it's almost there. I don't quite like this. I kind of want it to be more, and then finally it was like, oh, okay, yeah, now it's exactly how I want it. But it was 9 months of messing around with it and changing it and putting it down and picking it back up and putting it down. And, so finally when it was done, I was so glad to not do it anymore. Like, I just never want to do this anymore. I always feel that way at the end, but eventually.
Does it have an effect? So, you know, you do it a certain way, and we all crochet a certain way. And so when you go through the first testing process, because so if you have multiple testing processes, you know, does it sometimes affect whether or not you go forward with a pattern because of how your testers pieces are turning out? Like, even if yours looks a certain way, I don't know if that has had any effect on your designs.
The slippers definitely were, my testers had a huge influence in like things that I did afterwards.
Gotcha.
Most of the time I feel like they're editing for me, you know, like finding where I, even just grammatical errors or things like that. We don't have a lot of, and sometimes I have to, you know, push and say like, hey, did you guys have a problem with this part here? And they'll be like, oh yeah. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I kind of want to fix that. And I really, I'm so grateful to them for putting up with me, because I get a little, you know, where I'm like, oh, well, I don't know. Maybe we should do this way. Maybe we should do this way. And, you know, I can be kind of a space cadet about the whole thing. Yes. But with that one, I was definitely like, okay, no, I have very specific things that I want to know, and very specific feedback that I want to get back from you guys, because it's going to make a huge impact on like how I write this, how I size it, how I do all these things. So I think, you know, granny squares, you have a lot of flexibility, because, you know, you're just making a building block of something that someone else is going to make into something else. And you can't go too wrong in it.
Yeah. What has been your favorite part so far of the design process for you?
I love seeing the things that people make with my stuff. Like, I love it. It's the highlight of my day is seeing, you know, somebody makes a top, somebody makes a skirt, somebody makes a bag, somebody makes, you know, it's all different things every day. And I love seeing other people's creativity, you know, using this little thing that, you know, that I do, and they turn it into something that's like a completely, somebody made a big couch cushion cover, like huge, like 5 feet long, out of all eye squares. And I was like, that is amazing.
Wow.
I thought about myself, you know, so that is my favorite part, is seeing the final product that someone else comes up with.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's amazing. So do you already have like a whole bunch more ideas for granny squares, where it's like, I have a list of things that I want to happen? I mean, and like no idea when it'll happen, but like, how big is that list?
It's a big list. It's a big list. I spent the last couple days cleaning my craft room, and I don't throw away any prototypes of anything. I'm looking at like an enormous Michael's box down here that I just filled up with like probably like 1,000 granny squares from the last couple of years.
Are you gonna like turn it into a big blanket or something?
I know, you know, I would love to just stitch them all onto a couch and have it just be like the sampler couch. I think that would be super cool. But you know, that's a big undertaking. I'd have to really be set on exactly what couch I would want to, because I have to keep it for the rest of my life. You know, I can never throw it away. So.
Jennifer says I need that box.
I've made some really good friends in the community, and Jennifer, she always lightens my mood, sends me videos every morning. Like, I can just imagine you're sitting there, you're drinking your coffee, and you're like, oh, Christine needs to see this video. Christine needs to see this.
That's amazing. Yeah, so what has, and I love asking this question on here, because this whole live series started out because I wanted a way to try to, first off, remind myself to not, you know, cut myself off. You know, I think when you start, especially like when you run a small business and you're working from home, like it's easy to isolate yourself and forget to do anything but post about your business,
right?
You know? And so I wanted a way to remind myself to reach out and like have these real conversations and like talk to people and connect on a different level. Like if I've been following someone forever, if I really love their work, sometimes it's like there's a barrier of like, would it be weird if I send them a DM? Like just, hey man, your stuff's awesome. You know, like I think there's that and this gives me a reason to like reach out and say like, let's chat about your amazing stuff. But it's about community. So it's all about community. It's about, for me, my own community, but helping the people that follow me to discover new designers and new people in the community to like, hopefully we can all kind of share this space. And so for you, what has that meant for you when it comes to like the fiber community and your place in it, and you know what that has done for you?
Well, starting my own group last year just had its 1-year anniversary, and that has been awesome. I took some people that I had met online, you know, have them become my moderators, and they helped me build like a really welcoming environment. There's a lot of great Facebook groups out there. They can be kind of, it can be hard to work around the rules for designers, and
remember which groups have which rules.
Oh yeah, and you have to go in and you have to like read every single time. Like I have to read through their rules and like, what are the posting rules here? And like, can I even share something that, you know, I just made, but it has like one of my patterns in it? And are they going to get mad about that if somebody's asking me questions? Then I feel bad if I don't answer people's questions. It's like, oh, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just not trying to get kicked out of this group. So, you know, so I made my own, you know, because I was like, okay, well, I'll just build my own group. And I think initially I thought it would be like to help people who might have questions with some of my patterns, which some of them can be complicated. Some of them are super simple. Some of them are a little bit complicated though. But then I was like, no, I want it to be a place where people can just kind of come in and share, and it be pretty non-judgmental, and just have this welcome space. You know, where people can maybe even make friends like I have, and you know, that's pretty important. Also where, you know, you can say, hey, this is where I got this pattern from, which some groups, they won't let you even share when it's not your pattern. You're not allowed to like put a link or you know, even push somebody else's design too much, and you're kind of discouraged from doing those things, and it can be super disheartening. But having run my own now for a year, I can see why some people really take advantage of, you know, and they just promote their stuff like so much every single day, everywhere you go, and you're like, okay, you know, make your own. I don't know.
It's a fine line. I think it's making sure that you are plugging yourself when it's helpful. I mean, like, I know for me, I'm always on the lookout if I'm scrolling through Facebook, if I see someone saying, hey, I'm looking for this exact thing. Like a lot of people say plus size crop tops.
Exactly.
And I'm like, I got 2 of them. Check them out. You know what I mean? Like, and it's looking for like, how can I share in a way that is actually giving back to someone who's asking, if they're asking for, you know, something like that. But it can be difficult. I've left a lot of the groups where I felt like, you know, I was struggling to walk the line, you know, even when, like you said, maybe I was trying to share and I forgot that like you can't share any links. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to make it in a group where I can't share links, because I'm, you know, even if it's other people's stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I didn't realize that your Facebook group, and can we mention it on here? Yes. So Alternative Crochet, right? Yeah. So if you search Alternative Crochet on Facebook and the communities, I think they're called communities now, group/communities, something, I don't know. I've seen both, but I feel like I didn't realize, as she said, someone said to walk that wire instead of to walk the line.
Yeah, that's my kid. That's my son right there. Hi, Gabe.
That's awesome.
He's sleeping on me,
but
he's not home.
You've had a lot of growth in a year. I didn't realize it had only been a year. How has that felt to you? Is it kind of mind-blowing? Like, what is that like?
It is mind-blowing, and actually that group could be double the size, except for that I turn off for Facebook to recommend it to people, because I've seen other groups that are like, they're cool groups and I love the vibe in the group, but there's so many people and there's so much posting. I don't have like post approvals on, you know, so people can kind of just post whenever and whatever they want and get that instant gratification of like having it post moments later, and people are answering your questions. And, you know, I mean, that's what me and the moderators are for, is like, if somebody's posting, you know, off topic or whatever, then, you know, we can just take it out. But yeah, what was your question again?
Just how that has felt. I mean, I don't think.
Right. So I have it turned off because I don't want the group to be so big that your voice gets lost in there, you know, that you can't have like friends in a group or, you know, recognize certain people, or, you know, just where people get overlooked altogether. You know, I hate that feeling of like seeing somebody's post where I'll be like, oh, that was so cool, and they only got like 5 likes on it, you know. It's like, that was such a, you know, but it just gets lost in the feed. And so I don't want it to be too big, you know.
Yeah. I just feel like that. I don't think anyone starts a group and expects in a year to have over 70,000 people. I mean, that is a lot. That's amazing.
Yeah, you just gotta post every day.
Well, and I think too, I think it's being, like you said, running a group is not easy. And I think I would love to hear your view on how to manage a group of that size, when you said there are going to be people who, you know, can take advantage of rules, and like, how have you kept it so positive? How do you feel like that has happened?
I have a group of amazing moderators.
How many moderators do you have, if you don't mind me asking?
Shannon, Carla, Alyssa, Sarah, Debs, Gemma. I feel like I'm missing somebody. Oh, I'll feel so bad. So there's like maybe 7 or 8 of us.
Yes.
And also I have them in different time zones too, right?
That's
so
awesome.
I've got some who are in Australia, and some people who are in New Zealand, and some are in the UK. And then there's the American ones that are, you know, on all different sides of the coast or whatever. So I feel like we always kind of have somebody who's watching out for the group and making sure that, you know, it could be 3 o'clock in the morning and maybe I'm on shift because I'm up in the middle of the night, you know, and that's been what's kept the group going and staying, you know, in this positive mode that I want it to be in. Is moderators. Find people you trust, you know, that's really important.
Well, and I think too, I think some of the group growth, like you said, having to turn off Facebook recommending it, is because you didn't use your brand name. I think that's really interesting because people see that as more of a genre of alternative crochet versus woman walking on a wire, her group, you know. So I think that's what's super interesting, that what you've done to create, it creates a vibe in itself, I think.
Yeah, and that's what I was looking for. I was looking, I think, to carve out something that I felt comfortable in. And I've always been one of those people who I had a hard time making friends. I never really felt like I fit in. Didn't matter what kind of, you know, it was like all the different classes of, you know, social groups or whatever. And I never really felt like I fit into any of them. So I was like, hey, I'm going to just carve out my own little group here. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there like me.
How do you feel, like, does it make you feel even more thankful, you think, for the crochet community because of that?
Every day. Every day I'm thankful to them. I'm thankful to my testing group, my moderators, the people who come into even my Facebook group and, you know, put themselves out there. Sometimes it can be really hard to put yourself out there and be like, this is what I made, and show a picture that maybe you're not even 100% comfortable with, you know, how you look. But I want to have a group of people that it's going to be like, no, you look fantastic, and what you just made is awesome, you know, and really lift people up.
Do you think this is something you'd ever want to do full time, or do you kind of like having it separated from? Yeah?
No, I would love to.
Okay.
I would love to. Yeah.
It's an interesting question, because there are a lot of people, it kind of varies. I mean, there are some people who have jobs where they're like, no, this is what I always wanted to do my whole life, and I want to keep doing this. This is just, you know, for enjoyment. And then there's the people who like, yeah, this is, I would love to, like, that's the goal, you know? So.
I would love to. And it's people like you that I look at as like, for brainstorming, right? You've taken and gone off into all kinds of different directions with a crochet or fiber art focus, but you've come up with all kinds of ways of making an income off of what you enjoy doing, and have so many different avenues for making that income. And I have a lot of respect for you. And so I always look at, I don't want to steal your ideas, but I
No.
always think like, okay, well, that's like so smart, you know, that she's like, she's going to make hooks and she's going to make stitch markers and she's going to make stickers and merch. And then she also is designing patterns. You know, it's like having all of these things that you love about what you're doing and like having it be this whole brand, like where it's truly a brand, you know, that you're selling. So,
And trying to stay on brand with everything is definitely, it can definitely be difficult as things evolve. And but I was going to say on that point, that's where it does get a little, it's always a little nerve-wracking, you know, when you decide like, okay, we're just going to jump in feet first and like go all in, I'm going to quit my job, you know.
yeah. No, that idea is terrifying.
But nothing is guaranteed. Like that's, you know, Instagram stopped they had a bonus reels program. So a lot of creators that were making monthly income from Instagram, and they just came out one day and were like, we're just not going to do it anymore, you know? And I think it happens with everything. You know, there's going to be websites like Redbubble just raised their fees, you know, for artists selling on their site. Etsy has been under fire for raising their fees. And so you have to always be thinking one step ahead. You have to think, what's another stream of income that I could potentially look into, because I don't know how many of these will last. And I think that's what's like, it's always a juggling act, you know?
It's so smart though, because that's the kinds of things that I think about when I think about if I went full-time designing. You can't, and also I've been looking at trends throughout like the week, the month, the year.
Yeah.
What is my average income from this business, you know?
Yes.
And I feel like, if you don't have other things going on and then you have a lull, and this has become what pays your mortgage.
Yes.
You got to have a plan. So much respect to you.
Thanks. I mean, we're just doing what we do, you know? I mean, I couldn't do it without the captain. I mean, that's what I have to say. Like that was, when we both went full-time Pink Sheep, it was kind of like, oh man, but we always knew, like, he has always been the driving force of, you're never stuck with what you're doing. You always have a choice. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but you always have a choice. And that was a game changer for me when we got married. It was actually right before we got married. He was like, why are you still in school if you're unhappy? You know, but I always thought I had to. I was like, I have to go to grad school. I have to, you know, do this and this and this. And he was always like, you really don't. Like, if you're miserable, then like, you don't have to do that, you know? And we always figured, like, if this doesn't work out, we can get another job, you know? I mean, like, there's all people, everyone's hiring now, you know? So I think some of it is taking a plunge, but it is being smart about it. It's like you said, you've got to have a plan. You've got to look at how much you're making. You've got to know your finances. You've got to, and like, that's work in itself when you're working full time and you're running your business and you're having to try to figure out, would this work, you know?
Exactly.
But I'm so excited to see where you go, like what you continue to come up with. And you know, I see you, and I don't know if you've thought about this. I feel like you have to have thought about this because your work is perfect for it, but having like a book, like having a Granny Square book. I mean, like,
that would be cool.
Alternative Granny Squares.
A couple things that I wanted to do as a child that the last few years I kind of feel like have merged into this one thing that wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but is really cool anyway. And I wanted to be an artist, and I wanted to be a writer. And now I'm like, well, I'm kind of an artist and a writer at the same time. Not anywhere what I thought either of those things were going to look like. But I would love to do that. And my husband, that's my husband's suggestion all the time is, you know, that I put them all together and put them in a book.
And I don't know if you've seen, if you follow Flynn Knits or Flynn Knit.
I don't think so.
She is kind of like I say that you're the queen of Granny Squares because I just love the alternative Granny Squares, but I would say she's like the queen of pom-poms because you've ever seen, if you see them come up in your feed ever, but she does the pom-poms with the art on them.
For like beanie pom-poms? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll send you her info, but she does like art in the pom-poms. So like as she's cutting it, it creates a skull, or it creates, I think the newest one was like a strawberry, but she just came out with a hat book of hats and pom-poms. I think pom-poms are in there, but the hats are that kind of mosaic-esque crochet. I think it's mosaic crochet that she uses. but I'll send you that. But that's what that reminded me of, is she finally came out with a book of these hats. And I was like, that's what, once you find that niche, especially if it's a very specific item, like a granny square, like a hat, or like the mosaic style hats with text or something like that, where you can have these items, they all go together so beautifully. That would be such a beautiful book too. I mean, imagine like the photos and and the final, it could have all the granny squares, and then at the end you could have like 2 or 3 projects that you can like put all the granny squares together to make. And I love the blanket back behind you too. That's
I made that like 5 years ago, and I just finished weaving all the ends in yesterday.
That's amazing. Was it for the show? Was it for the episode?
Well, I was just trying to clean, and here I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you need to sit down, and you know, I just always have to have my hands busy, so I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna weave the ends, because it's ridiculous how long I'll put off doing something and then be like, oh, I feel so much better now that that's done. I wish I had just gotten that off my plate so long ago. You know, that I do love to make from squares is like purses, right? So
that is adorable. And I love the
I love making pom-poms. And
that's just a little mini side body, crossbody, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So that's something that we're going to need to see a pattern for, by the way.
Keep hearing that. It's one of those things that I keep doing kind of the same thing over and over again. And every time I do it, I'm like, am I doing this the same way, or do I do it differently? Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe this one just needs to have like a very general video that goes to it or something. Yeah, that's
true. Yeah. So now you get to start a YouTube channel, right?
I do have a YouTube channel.
Do you have one?
I do. Okay. I just don't post on there very much. Okay. But if I have some free patterns on there. I use a different video hosting platform for my patterns, because a lot of them have full video tutorials that go with them.
Oh, nice.
For things that are yeah, well, if they're a little more complicated, or just some people learn better from watching and some people learn better from reading. So they all are like written with photos, but then some of them have full videos. But instead of putting it out there, why would you buy something if it's free? So I have them on a video hosting site, and but if it's just like one part of a round or whatever, then I have it on YouTube.
Gotcha. That's really cool. I like that. And I will be able to tag you on YouTube. So I do post these. I have a whole playlist of all of the past episodes. And I actually didn't know that YouTube has a podcast feature where if you already have a playlist, but you would consider it a podcast, you can also create a podcast playlist. I still have both. It's still like a video playlist, but it's also that. And I was like, that's cool. So I don't know if it helps with searching, if people are searching Crochet Podcast, if that would come up. But
I don't know. I always just go to your video collections, because I've watched most of them. I find some really worthwhile information in these interviews that you do. You know, I like hearing about. I liked the one especially where you had a bunch of your testers and you asked them very specific questions about what do you want from a designer, like what kind of feedback do you want, what kind of instruction do you want, and they gave all their feedback. Anyway, that was definitely a good episode. But then just also hearing about how other people go about doing all kinds of things in every aspect of the business is like really interesting information to me, and I can't find it anywhere else. It's like
I felt like, so the only thing that I found that was similar to this within our genre, I mean, because obviously there's maker chats out there with, different from different fields and artists and things, but it was a series that Smeeny Beanie Knits has done a couple of seasons. So I think she might have 3 or 4 seasons, and she also talks to other makers, but she will branch out. So she might talk to someone who makes jewelry or, and she talks about their business. But I really wanted something similar to that. So she was my inspiration. She was actually my first interview.
Oh, I think.
And
yeah.
Actually, so the first interview, we went live, got done with the live, went to go post it, Instagram deleted the video.
So I think I saw your follow-up video with her.
It was
We
the
talked about
follow-up.
how you lost
Yeah.
the lost episodes of Pink Sheep and Friends.
Yes, exactly. Before it was even called that. So it was such a learning experience. And as I've continued through them, I like that it's just casual. Like if it comes up, great. Like I have questions that I'll ask along the way. So you'll hear some similar questions, but it's really just where the conversation goes. And I think that's what makes it so interesting, because you never know what's going to come out of a question, like what, road will take off of that to talk about something else. And there can be some really, really good gems, depending on what someone's trying to do with their business or with their crochet. And I don't want to stop anytime soon. So
that's good. That's good.
And I wanted to say too, you talked about how you look at how I have all these ideas and like you wouldn't want to copy the ideas, but I think that's the beauty of the crochet world is like I'm not the only one making hooks or stitch markers or tools or chunky patterns. Even it's there's so much room for all of us to put our brand into something. Yeah. And I know I had to reach out to and these aren't even in my shop. I put them in a mystery box, but this little color keeper thing, so you can like kind of plan out a project with the colors. This was something that oh my gosh, I just lost her name. She does the tags and the printables. No, Sablabot, maybe. If it's not her, it's someone else. But someone was doing something like this, and I was one of those where I was like, oh, I really, really like that. I want to try to 3D print something, but I want to change up this and this. And I sent her a message. I was like, this is what I'm looking at doing. Like, are you okay with that? Because you're doing something very similar. And I think that, I already had a relationship with her. She'd come on Pink Sheep and Friends. Like, I felt like I could reach out to her comfortably. And she was like, oh, no, I think that's great. So I think being willing to reach out and be like, I have this idea for something. And sometimes it can lead into something bigger than you could have imagined, yeah. Especially if you have friends and I say colleagues because it's like the businesswoman of crochet, but
it's true.
Yes, but I think that's where the community really comes in, and just having those relationships and makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I like that you always say like there's room for everyone.
Yes.
Whatever it is that you're doing. And I just like, I love that you're not like, this is mine, you can't do it, right? On the other hand, I occasionally I've even seen people who I feel like are kind of almost ripping off your ideas with some of the like stickers that they'll come up with, and I'm like, I don't really like that.
Yeah.
Because I know how that feels. People do the same thing with my patterns. I've had so much pattern theft the last year plus, and sometimes it's scam websites that I don't even know if when they make a purchase if they're just downloading malware or if I have no idea.
Pattern, yeah, it's hard to know. And I have the mindset of so I have had to send out notices to a couple of Etsy shops, especially early on when I was releasing the tarot cards. That was my most stolen design, and if it was a direct copy. So if they had like scanned or taken a picture and stuck it on a direct to garment print, so like they're just drop shipping these prints out, and a lot of them their Etsy shops weren't even crochet. It was just tarot. They have tarot cards, so like they had snatched it off of Google most likely, because it does come up if you're searching. And I had to send takedown notices for those. But there's a few people who have made tarot cards for like the hooker or different ones, and I look at it and I make sure, like, as long as you haven't screenshotted my photo, if you've taken the time to create something that was your own, then I don't have the time, like, I don't have the time to think like, well, that was my idea, and I would rather have that thing, like, if they were inspired by me, great, they obviously took time to draw that themselves, and I just want people to feel like there is that space. I don't want to be that person who's constantly having to send out notices because that's too closely related to what I did. It's just, it's a time suck. It's an emotional drain, you know. Yeah, mm-mm.
Etsy does have one feature that I recently became familiarized with, where you can register your intellectual property.
I didn't know
So,
that.
yeah, I'll send you a
Yeah,
link to that. I've
please.
had several people who have reverse engineered pictures that they'll see of, it's usually my granny side pattern.
Yeah.
They'll see Pinterest or whatever and think there's not a pattern out there, and they'll, oh, okay, so I'll make my own. And then it's usually my own customers who will message me and say, oh, hey, by the way, I saw, this popped up and I know it's not you.
Yeah.
And they'll send me a message. So I actually registered that pattern as being my own intellectual property. And I mean, there's so many ways that you can make an eye granny square. You don't have to make it look just like mine, like
Exactly.
you can come up with your own thing. I don't own this concept, but if you are trying to make it look identical to mine, then that's when I'm going to, you can fill out the complaint form. Once you already have that item registered on there, you just click the box for the one that you're making the claim about. Then you put, you'll search for the person who's infringing on you and just attach that. It takes like 3 minutes, and they've been really good about protecting that design for me.
Yeah, I did the form, the takedown form through Etsy, which it is very easy, but I didn't know about the pre-registration. So I'm going to look into that for sure if you'll send me, because that's super helpful. And again, like that's why I know Etsy raised its fees, but for me so far it has been it's been too helpful for me to leave. It's been worth the fees at this point. Maybe in the future it won't be, but the tools that they provide. And for me, it's one of the big things is sales tax. They take care of sales tax. Oh, yeah. So I don't have to pay someone to make sure that I'm paying all these different states what I owe them.
True. Yeah, I have very few complaints about them. I mean, I wish that when I update a pattern that everybody who's bought it had that version. I really do. But otherwise, yeah, I don't feel like I would have had the success that I've had without them. So
people trust them, I think, and I know that's a big part of marketing in general, is that whole know, like, trust thing, and people trust Etsy. They know that they're not going to get scammed, and if they are, they're protected, as a customer. And I think sometimes people take that for granted. They've been around so long, it's a household name.
Yeah. And I mean, if you were buying from one of those scammer websites that's, copying and pasting our pictures and our descriptions and all that stuff, like I said, I have no idea what people are actually downloading when they go ahead and click and purchase. And if their credit card information is getting stolen, I don't know. If they're downloading malware, I have no idea. And I feel bad. I'm like, oh man. And I have no idea how to take them down if they're not on Etsy or if they're not a Shopify store or whatever. If you've paid for your own domain, I'm just stuck.
Yeah, there are a couple of websites. If you search the Hooker Tarot Card T-shirt, obviously my stuff comes up, but there are some really like scammy sounding websites that I was like, I'm not even going to click on that to try to take it down, because I don't know where that's going to take me.
Yeah, sometimes even just researching who's ripping you off can be hazardous.
Exactly. I did takedown notices on Etsy, Redbubble, and eBay. Those were the 3 ones when I first released the Hooker Tarot card. It's like it just went wild, and they were everywhere. But I think I've gotten it mostly under control, and it's just on really like the spammy sites. Yeah. So, you do what you can.
You do, and there's only so much energy I can give to it. Sometimes I feel kind of disheartened about it. I'm like, oh man, this really sucks. And I'm like, what can I do about it? And it's like, well, I don't have a lawyer.
Yes.
Well,
or the money to pay one.
Yeah, or even the money to pay like an outside source that says that they do those kinds of things for you. I don't know. It just seems like the amount of effort it would, and then for what? For it to happen again next week where you start all over again, Yeah. So we do what we can.
So before we go, because we are like 1 minute to 1, but I wanted to ask you how you felt so far about the DIY hook challenge, because you are joining in this year.
I love it. I'm actually really excited to be doing a non-crochet craft
That's the point for sure.
Because I have a lot of crafts that I do actually, and I never spend any time doing them anymore because all I do is crochet for the last 2 straight years. But and I don't even know if this is what is going to be the final product.
Yeah, I love it so much.
But
you've done so much work on that. Oh, and it's got the alien. It's amazing. I love it.
So, you know, I was having a good time just playing around with a Sharpie. I actually bought 2. So I have one that I haven't even opened yet. But I had some kind of tame ideas, and then I had some kind of crazy ideas. So we'll see what I end up doing with it at the end.
And I was going to tell you too, so I know, and I keep meaning to add this to like the sheet that I send out with the hooks. But you've probably noticed the Sharpie will kind of run into the layer lines. If you coat it with like acrylic paint, like a coat of white acrylic paint or like a base coat, then usually that will keep it from running. Yeah. So, and that was,
and I had a feeling that might be the case. So I thought, well, maybe I could even do a clear coat that'll fill in the lines, and now I'll just have like an outline underneath, and then I'll be able to go over it again. I don't know. I seriously had so many ideas. I might just paint the whole thing white and start all over again, because that's kind of what I do. So like, I like this idea. I'm going to take it all apart. I'm just going to flog it.
Yeah, that happened to me 3 times last year before I settled on making my Mr. Meeseeks, because I was...
What are you going to make?
This year, I have no idea.
I bought... Decided?
Am I... What?
You still haven't decided?
No. So I bought these acrylic markers. And there's a lot of colors. I just got them on Instagram. I mean, on Instagram. Yeah. So I have not tried paint pens. And so I thought I want to try those. And I am kind of thinking maybe some kind of video game potentially. Because like Matt just bought the new Zelda game this morning. We went to Target this morning because it was the first release was at midnight last night, and we just couldn't stay up late. So went this morning and got Zelda. So he's been playing that. And then obviously Super Mario Brothers is coming out with the movie. If it may already be, I think it's already out in theaters. So I thought about maybe doing some kind of video game theme because I have the markers. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not the best freehand drawer. So especially not with like pens and markers. Digital is a little easier to erase, and but it's such a challenge for me. And like you said, it's nice. Huh?
I always start with pencil.
Yes, that's what I did with the Meeseeks last year. I did a pencil. I did a base coat of the blue, and then I did the pencil drawing, and then went over that with Sharpie. But it's and like you said, it's gives you a reason to take a break and do something different and maybe try something new. And we're just glad people still want to do it. Like we were so excited the first year, and we have been no less excited any future year.
I think it's fun. I don't know. I like to draw. Drawing was like my first love, you know. And every once in a while, I'll still break out my pyrography pen and I usually do like spoons, things like that. And I freehand things on there and then burn it in. That was one of my side hustles for a little while. So this is kind of like, I wish I could break out the wood burning pen, but I think I'll just melt it. I don't think that would work.
We had one person, I actually just had someone send me a message on Etsy and ask me if they could put it in the oven if they used clay. And I said, well, we had one person 2 years ago that did do clay and did put it in the oven, but I cannot guarantee that it will not melt. So
yeah,
you can try your luck.
Go low and slow on that.
Exactly. You could look up the melting point of PLA. That is the filament. So we use PLA printer filament. So you could look up its properties, you know, so if anyone's wanting to use heat to work on it. But that's what's fun. Again, you have to like figure something out and try things. And I think that's why we're doing it.
Yeah.
Challenge mode.
I'm excited. I like the competition.
Yes. Well, and that, I mean, I told Matt, I said, I don't know if we'll have more entrants than last year or not. And I don't know if you caught that he did say if we have more people submit a finished hook this year, he is going to let the audience vote on the hook that he then gets tattooed on his body.
Oh, I do remember that about getting it tattooed.
Yep. So that'll be if we have more entries than last year. So final entries.
That's what I was going to ask you. I'll bet to you it's got to be a thrill to see people actually get tattooed with your designs.
Oh my gosh. It's amazing.
Oh,
and
cool.
I don't even have one yet because I haven't found anyone. I haven't found a tattoo artist in Alabama that I have felt like, okay, I want to go see them. Well, I have now. I have one that I've reached out to potentially get tattooed this year. But that's been difficult because I had one artist in Georgia that did all my work. And, you know, I wanted to find someone here. But, you know, I had so many people reaching out asking me if they could get my work tattooed that I finally put a tattoo pass up in my Etsy shop because they, you know, wanted to support me. So it's $25 and I send them like this little like printed out sheet and yes, and I sign it and I say that they have permission to get this one and I send them a sticker of the design because I do have stickers of all of them, so they'll get a sticker and they don't get a digital download. And that was one thing that I do not send digital downloads to anybody. And I was like, if your tattoo artist is good, they don't need it. Like they'll be able to go to Etsy, pull it, and they'll create the print. But it's amazing to see, you know, I mean, it's just amazing. It's like you said, it's just like seeing people make your patterns, you know, like seeing the joy that it brings them and like tattoos are forever. So like, that's really cool.
I think it's pretty cool. I could see getting the little frog tattooed for sure.
He really felt like that one really felt like a tattoo design. There's some where it is kind of it. Some of them are like that old school look where it's really simple and it's just like yarn life and ballin'. Like those two were like very simple ones, but that one really felt like something that I felt like a tattoo artist would come up with if you would ask them for something like that. So I was really proud of that design. That was a fun one.
Even like I love tarot card tattoos. You know when people get tarot card tattoos. Oh, yeah. So this would make a really good tattoo too.
Yes.
Maybe a frog on one arm and like a tarot card on the other.
Yes, exactly. And maybe one of these days I'll have enough to make a deck. I am working on it. You know, we've got five designs now, so it'll just continue. I've got more ideas, so we'll see what happens.
My friend, I think she's made a couple of decks. She's you know, she's an artist drawing.
Oh, that's cool.
You know, so she's over the years come up with a couple different decks, and they are super cool. I actually have a collection, just weird tarot card decks that people have given me as gifts. So
that's cool. That's really cool. Well, I don't want to keep you, but thank you so much for coming on. This was a fantastic chat. We'll have to come back on. I've been trying to do updates for these at least once a year, like bringing people back on. And sometimes it's just like, it's been a couple of months and I don't have anyone who wants to come on this week, and I'll invite somebody back because it's nice to catch up and see what you're working on that's new. And I mean, because you never know. I never saw me being where I am now a couple years ago. So like in a couple years, I have no idea what we're going to be doing. So I think it's really cool to get to check back in. But I'm going to be watching your hook, and you guys check out the Facebook group. You know, I think it's important for all of us to find that community. And so if you've enjoyed this chat and you feel like you get along with us both, then that Facebook group may be your place. You know, you never know. But we'll talk soon. And yeah, I can't wait to see what else, even if that's not your finished hook, we're going to see what you do create. So thank you so much.
Thank you for
coming on. And we'll talk soon.
It was great to meet you.
Yes. Bye, guys. Happy hooking.